Why do we call it a sandwich? We all know the sandwich. It is one of the simplest and most familiar foods in the world. But have you ever wondered why we call it a sandwich? The word does not mean bread. It does not mean meat. And it does not describe the way the food is made. In fact, sandwich was not originally the name of a food at all. The story takes us back more than 250 years, to 18th century England. At that time, there was an English nobleman named John Montagu. He was the 4th Earl of Sandwich. But Sandwich was not his family name. It was part of his title. There is actually an old town called Sandwich in Kent, in southeastern England. The title, Earl of Sandwich, came from the name of this town. How did the name of an English town end up on something we eat? According to the famous story, John Montagu loved playing cards. One day, he did not want to leave the card table just to have a meal. So he is said to have asked for some meat to be placed between 2 slices of bread. This way, he could hold the food in one hand and continue playing without using a knife and fork. Other people saw what the Earl of Sandwich was eating. It was simple. It was easy to hold. And there was no need to stop for a full meal. According to the story, people began asking for the same as sandwich. In other words, they wanted what the Earl of Sandwich was having. At this point, sandwich still referred to the Earl, not the food itself. But as more people ordered the same thing, the name gradually became attached to the food. The same as sandwich. What sandwich is having? And eventually, a sandwich? A name connected to one English nobleman had become the name of a food. It is a great story. But did it really happen exactly this way? We cannot be certain. The famous card-playing story has been repeated for centuries, but another explanation is that the Earl ate this kind of food while working, because it allowed him to eat without leaving his desk. And John Montagu certainly did not invent the idea of eating meat with bread. People had been eating bread with meat and other foods for centuries. So the interesting part of this story is not really the invention of the food. It is the origin of the name. Whether the famous story happened exactly this way is difficult to know. But we do have historical evidence that sandwich was already being used as the name of a food in the 18th century. In 1762, the English historian Edward Gibbon described people eating at a club in London. He wrote, "A bit of cold meat, or a sandwich. What matters here is the word sandwich." Gibbon used it as the name of a food without explaining what it meant. This suggests that by 1762, the word was already familiar enough in England to be used as the name of this kind of food. From there, the name spread, and sandwich gradually became the familiar word we use today. And if we follow that name all the way back, its journey is surprisingly simple. First, Sandwich was the name of a town. Then it became part of an English nobleman's title. And finally, it became the name of a food. More than 250 years later, people around the world still use that name every day. So the next time you pick up a sandwich, remember? The food in your hand carries the name of an old English town. A town that gave its name to a nobleman. And a nobleman whose title eventually gave its name to one of the most familiar foods in the world. Sandwich. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.